It's a little embarrassing to admit, but I can be a pretty judgmental person. And I like to assume that everybody's pretty judgmental. I don't feel like it's something that's really escapable as a human. But I also could just be saying that to make myself feel better. And I don't mean to say that like I'm out here criticizing everybody and vocalizing all my judgments. I'm just saying that I have them and they're kicking around in my head sometimes, making me feel things. And there are certain things that I judge people more harshly on than others. Now, I'm speaking generally, I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like people with, malicious intent. That stuff's obvious. I think it's okay to negatively judge murderers. That's probably acceptable. But one of the things that I notice that I judge people kind of harshly on is advice and motivation, particularly on YouTube, because there was a while where it was most of what I encountered was just like, all you need are these 5 ideas, or to follow this specific routine and your life will change for the better. All your problems will be solved. It's that like certainty that really makes me feel skeptical. And I've noticed that the things that I judge people most harshly on are the things that I did or do myself. Mostly the things that I once did. It's almost like I've developed some sort of confusion, like now that I've outgrown some trait, I'm suddenly frustrated with anybody else in the world who hasn't. As though I didn't just discover this information myself. But it helps me realize, it's not even the person that I'm frustrated with. It's almost like I'm getting frustrated at being shown a version of a previous self. It's a mirror, but it's an old mirror. Obviously, I don't mean to be this way, but alas. But for whatever reason, when I was young, I had this strong desire to be helpful with words. And I had myself convinced that if I could find the right words for any given situation, that I could help anybody with whatever they're dealing with. Understanding as well that I would never know what those words were, but it didn't stop me from trying to figure it out anyway. I wanted to be the person with the answers. I have no idea why that was, but it's kind of something that was around for as far back as I can really remember. I wanted to know the things. And in retrospect, it's pretty easy to see that that behavior was an overcompensation for the fact that I actually felt very confused by the world and confused about how to act in it. By the way, I'm still very confused about it. But now that I'm on the other side, I can very clearly see that all the advice that I had to give, even if it wasn't completely born of my own insecurity, was pretty ineffective. Like if I had a 1 week stretch where I was consistently going to the gym, all of a sudden I'd become some evangelist for, fitness. Which is hilarious because if you look at me, I'm, not exactly jacked. At every step along the way of my own, self-growth, I guess, if you want to call it, personal evolution, I would discover one of these pieces of information that would feel transformative, I would almost immediately feel like, how could I have not noticed this or understood this before? But that would happen a lot. Like, I would think that all of a sudden, like, my life has changed by this, I'll never be the same. And then a week later, I would just kind of revert back to, my usual self. And now I kind of get this sense that a lot of people are speaking really confidently about ideas that they're still kind of actively trying to convince themselves of. Like sometimes I would encounter an idea, but like, to implement it sounded like a lot of work that I wasn't totally sure was worth it. And so I might give that idea to somebody else as a form of advice, hoping that they would adopt it. And then I can track their own success and then decide whether or not it was worth following. I mean, that's definitely not something I was doing consciously, but again, in reflection, it kind of seems like what was happening underneath it all. What's funny is when I think back to all these moments where, I was trying to be helpful by offering unsolicited advice all the time, probably too much. But what's interesting is sometimes a friend would thank me for having helped them. And then they would describe what I said or did that was actually helpful for them. And never once was it one of those moments where I was trying to do that. They would always describe a situation that like I didn't even remember. Time and time again, it seems like the most helpful information that I have to offer is the information that I never think to offer because I've filed it away somewhere in a drawer labeled too obvious to communicate. But what's obvious to us isn't obvious to everybody. And that really kind of made me reconsider how people take in information. Because I can't really remember a time that I changed because of someone else's insistence that I do. Most advice really kind of seems reductive, or it seems to flatten people. Like everybody is just one type of way, and if only you had this, you would be better. So why isn't it as simple as just encountering the correct information, though? I think for the most part, people want to carve their own path and make their own life. They want to arrive at their own conclusions so that they can take some ownership over their life. And so even if someone can offer good advice that would be helpful, I think people are naturally resistant to that. In what situation does it actually land? And I think for me anyways, it's always been indirect. I think that's why a lot of people enjoy listening to podcasts now, because you get to like be a fly on the wall in a conversation and then just kind of cherry pick what you find useful in that conversation. Nothing in that context is being directed right at you, at least not usually. It just kind of sits there and you can pick it up if you want. And so that's kind of how I'm considering my approach in a lot of these videos. It's like, I hope that what I have to say is useful to somebody, but I'm also not going to make that necessarily my goal. I'm just going to lay out all the pieces, maybe tell a story, and you might reject 90% of it. But I might accidentally say that one thing that clicks or resonates in some way. Because, like I said, all those times that I tried to help people, I didn't. And all the times I did help people, I wasn't trying to. So it's weird to say that, like, I'm trying to help, I'm trying to be helpful and useful by not trying to. I'm just sharing the random thoughts and ideas that occur to me. And if you feel like picking it up, then cool. And if not, then, just thanks for listening anyway. In my own mind and in my personal life, I have this kind of breakdown of categories where I have like a box for thinking, one for knowing, and one for believing. Like, I think that someday I could make money by making videos. But I don't know. Maybe not too. And then there's knowing. And knowing for me is like, it's more solid, probably provable. Something like, I know that exercise consistently leads to better health and the production of dopamine, and is basically the magical solution for absolutely everything. But believing is more like embodied and integrated. I have a belief when I have an experience that makes this information undeniable. So although I might have these thoughts about all the benefits of exercise that I could share with people, I haven't actually lived it enough to claim it as a belief. I haven't spent 2 years straight with like a solid routine and probably anything. Like when I was younger, I was sure that I would never get into a car accident. I would think like, oh, like I'm a person who is a careful and safe driver, so that wouldn't happen to me. And then I got into a car accident. And I realized that, right, that stuff happens sometimes in the fraction of a second, and it's maybe not your fault. So it doesn't really matter how good of a driver you think you are. It could happen. And so now I believe that it's possible to be in a car accident. Or at least I can't believe that it's impossible. That might be a better way of framing it. Like, belief has a level of undeniability to it. Like, I've experienced it so viscerally that there's no way around it. Can you see how that's like a little bit different than just knowing something to be true? Like, why do some ideas completely reorganize us and other ideas just kind of sit in our heads? Like, understanding an idea is just not the same as being changed by it. It's like we're stuffing ourselves full with information. I don't really know how to explain it. It's like sometimes I get a text message from somebody and I'm not really in a position to respond right away. But in my head, I will think about what I should say. And then I might even consider how they'll respond. And through that kind of mental process of pre-planning my action, I have a tendency to forget to actually execute the action. So I won't reply to that person who texted me because I'll have already felt like I did. It's like your brain has this urge to know, what would it be like if we did this thing? And if you mentally rehearse it too much, the simulation satisfies the urge, satisfies the curiosity just enough to render you inert. Or it will make us feel like we're in the position to now use that information as advice for others. A thought can kind of simulate action, and language can kind of simulate embodiment. It's like sometimes we mistake our own psychological proximity to change for change itself. Whenever I had an idea when I was younger, I would immediately want to express it to one of my friends. Like, oh, what if we did this? Here, I'm thinking about doing this. But I have a friend who has made it a rule for himself not to do that. If ever he makes a plan for himself, he won't tell me about it. He won't tell anyone. Not until he's successfully executed it. And he often does. And I think there's something, really important going on there that somehow this guy discovered as a child. Because, I've known this guy since I was like 14. I asked him about it before, and he said something like he worried that, or he feels like as soon as he speaks about what he might do, that it could ensure that he won't do it. 14-year-olds got wisdom too. So yeah, I'm not really interested in being like an advice guy or a motivation guy. I just know that it hasn't really had an effect on me, and so I'm not going to assume that it would have an effect on anyone else. And honestly, I think that most people are a lot more capable than we realize. And I think that we are often a lot less profound than we would hope to be. Sorry to say it. I think I just broke the heart of like my 14-year-old self. Sorry, bro. And so, I'm going to trust that if I have anything meaningful to say or important to say, that will be decided by someone other than me.